Hi, my name's Ollie Bliss and this is my channel, Book Draw. For those who don't know, I enjoy looking at queer fiction and creating images out of them. So today I am looking at The Well of Loneliness, which is written by Radclyffe Hall. It's a story which is about Stephen Gordon, who is an upper-class woman living in the 1920s, and it explores her sexuality through periods of her life, going from early years to sort of 20s and then a little bit beyond. I was watching Sky Arts and Benji Thomas was one of the contestants in Heat 5, and it's for Landscape Artist of the Year, which is a show I really like, but this particular contestant was messing around with ink and bleach, so I decided to use that as a starting point for this image because I like playing around with inks. I like the kind of monochromatic effect that you can get from it, and the bleach adds a highlighting element which I'd not really come across before, and I just thought that might be a fun way to play around with Stephen's character, because I knew in my mind that I wanted to create this image of Stephen looking out of the window, and this image is based on a painting which I saw at the Tate. I actually have another full video on this where you can see lots of different sketches that I did while I was there, but this is just one of those which I've been playing around with because it links to the current book which I'm exploring, The Well of Loneliness. The Tate was looking at a lot of different figures in the past who were from the LGBT family, and this is an actual portrait of Radclyffe Hall herself, but I did a sketch which I then photocopied and blew up, and that's where I started using it as a starting point for making these images. I basically covered the back of the photocopy with a lot of graphite and then drew in with biro to create a stencil effect of that, and then laid the inks and the bleach on top of that to create the actual image itself. I do prefer this second image in the fact that I started with the highlights, and the highlights have this bleaching effect on the actual paper, so it brings out a yellow bleaching quality to give features like the nose and the cheeks and strands of hair some additional light. Because when you're playing with ink, you really only have just the pure black, the surface of the paper, and then a kind of grey wash in between. So actually having the bleach to add this additional yellows and real whites is quite exciting for me, because I've not really played around with ink that much in the past. I used to do stuff with lithography, particularly while I was over in Amsterdam as a student for 6 months, and that was a really interesting period for doing this type of experimentation between these different shades, so it was kind of nice to return to those roots in a way. And now I'm working on this window pane, and that's because Stephen is having this moment of revelation, and so I will be layering this window on top of the ink work which I've done to create a sense of Stephen looking through this window. Click subscribe to get notified when my next videos are about, and you'll understand how this is all going to come together as a full image. You can also see my other images which I experimented in using Instagram, and shout out to Spammade, who is also another booktuber and plays on Instagram too. After I'd done those initial portraits, I still had left over the photocopies which I had done just for myself, so I decided to start playing around with the ink and the paper just to mess around with composition, because ultimately I was taking pictures of these which I'll then scan into my computer and then modify further when I'm playing around with the layers. And what's fun about working digitally is that you can take pictures as the progress of your process continues, so that if you take it too far you can actually just use the images that you liked and abandon the ones where they just become a hot mess. So I don't know how people feel about the whole digital versus physical painting, but I do enjoy working digitally, and then I do actually enjoy turning something digital into then something textile, so it's like a whole 360 process, and this is just one element of that. But does it make it less valuable because the physical thing has been destroyed? There is a kind of open-ended ethical question for you. Anyway, come back again soon and you'll learn why Stephen is looking outside of this window and having this little moment of revelation. Okay, see you again soon. Bye!